The building looks like every other building on this street, 6 floors, grey concrete. A loading dock on the ground level where a man in a tracksuit is moving boxes onto a flatbed trolley with the unhurried efficiency of someone who has done this 10,000 times. There is no sign, no logo. The only thing that distinguishes this address from the 7 identical buildings on either side of it is a small intercom panel by the door. With a number you were given by someone who was given it by someone else. You press it, you wait. Inside this building, right now, workers are assembling Rolex submariners that will never see the inside of a Rolex facility. Patek Philippe Nautiluses that Patek's own engineers did not design. A P. Royal Oaks that Audemar's Piguet would need to examine under magnification before they could confirm were fake. Welcome to Shenzhen. Welcome to the industry that the Swiss watch world loses an estimated $1 to $2 billion to every single year. Welcome to the part of the watch world nobody wants to talk about and everybody already knows exists. You are in the Luohu district of Shenzhen, China, a city of 15 million people that sits directly on the border with Hong Kong and has been the manufacturing capital of the world's consumer economy for 40 years. If you own an electronic device, a piece of clothing, a pair of shoes, or a watch of any kind, something inside it probably passed through this city. Shenzhen is not a dirty secret. It is an open one. The counterfeit watch industry here is not hidden in the way people imagine it to be. It is hidden in the way a thing hides when it is technically illegal but practically tolerated. Behind unremarkable doors, inside buildings that also contain legitimate businesses operating through supply chains deliberately fragmented so that no single location holds the whole picture. The factory you are entering does not manufacture watches, it assembles them. The distinction is not semantic, it is the entire business model. Here is how it works. The dial comes from one workshop, the case from another, the bracelet from a third, the movement, the engine inside from a fourth facility that may be in a completely different district of the city. None of these workshops individually makes a counterfeit watch. Each one makes a component, a dial, a case, a bracelet, parts. The assembly facility puts them together. If authorities raid the dial workshop, they find a dial manufacturer. If they raid the case workshop, they find a case manufacturer. The chain is deliberately broken into pieces small enough that no single piece constitutes evidence of the finished crime. This is not accidental. This is architecture. Someone designed this supply chain specifically to survive partial law enforcement. That someone is not a criminal organization in the way movies suggest. Not a single boss in a back room controlling everything. It is more like a marketplace. Independent suppliers who have been producing at these tolerances for years, who sell components to multiple assemblers, who compete on quality and price the way any industrial supplier does. The criminal infrastructure is distributed. There is no head to cut off. Inside the assembly floor, the first thing you notice is how normal it looks. 30 workers at benches with good lighting and the kind of magnification equipment you'd find in any serious watchmaking operation. Clean surfaces, organized component trays. The workers are young, mostly 20s and early 30s, and they work with the focused speed of people who have done this enough times that the movements are automatic. A case goes down, a movement goes in, a dial seats, a case back closes, a bracelet attaches. In 8 minutes, a watch that will retail online for $350 has been assembled. For comparison, the genuine version retails for $10,500. The worker who assembled it earns approximately $450 a month. The broker who sells it online will make $150 on this transaction. Multiply that across a production run of 500 units a week, and you begin to understand why this building has a loading dock. The watches leaving this facility are not the $30 fakes you find at a market stall. Those exist. They always have, and they fool nobody. The watches here are something different. The industry calls them super clones or one-to-one replicas. And the terminology matters, because the quality gap between a street fake and a super clone is not small. It is enormous. The Rolex Submariner assembled here uses an Asian-made clone of the genuine Rolex caliber 3135 movement, a movement engineered specifically to replicate the architecture of the original, running at the same frequency, wound by the same rotor geometry, decorated with approximations of the same Geneva stripes. Under a loop, it fails. Under normal daily wear, it keeps time within 10 seconds per day. Rolex's own COSC standard requires accuracy within 6 seconds per day. The clone gets close enough that most people wearing it could not tell the difference by feel. The case is machined from 904L stainless steel, the same grade Rolex uses. The bracelet tolerances are within a fraction of a millimeter of the genuine article. The dial printing is done with industrial precision that has improved steadily over 15 years of iteration. The sapphire crystal has the correct anti-reflective coating. Put this watch on your wrist and walk into a room. The person next to you will not know. The person across from you will not know. In most social environments, even experienced watch people will not know without asking to handle it. That is not an accident. That is the product brief. In 2022, a Swiss auction house received a Rolex Daytona for consignment. The seller believed it to be genuine. The auction house's specialists examined it. They confirmed it as genuine. It was catalogued, photographed, and listed. 3 days before the sale, a secondary examination flagged an irregularity in the dial printing. Further analysis confirmed it was a super clone, an extremely high-quality replica that had passed visual inspection by trained professionals with decades of experience. This happens more often than the industry admits, not frequently, but more than once. The factories in Shenzhen know this story. They consider it a benchmark. So why doesn't anyone stop them? The honest answer is they try, and it is genuinely complicated. China has intellectual property law. Trademark protection exists. The government has conducted significant raids. In 2019 alone, Chinese customs seized over 25 million counterfeit items, with watches representing a major category. Factories get shut down, operators get arrested, warehouses get cleared, and then, within weeks, the operation rebuilds somewhere else. Because the economics are resistant to enforcement in a way that legal frameworks were not designed to handle. When a factory gets raided, the machinery is seized, but the knowledge walks out the door on 2 legs. The workers who assembled the movements, the supplier contacts who provided the components, the distribution relationships. None of that disappears in a raid. It reassembles. There is also a local economic reality that complicates enforcement. In certain districts of Shenzhen and Guangzhou, the counterfeit goods industry employs tens of thousands of people in legitimate adjacent roles: logistics, component manufacturing, electronics, packaging. The line between legitimate manufacturing and counterfeit manufacturing runs through the middle of industrial parks, where both happen simultaneously. Local officials are not always motivated to disrupt this. The international brands, Rolex, Patek, LVMH's watch division, they fund their own enforcement teams who work with Chinese authorities. They conduct undercover operations. They submit IP complaints. They work the legal process. The factories adapt faster than the process moves. Now, for the part that makes the watch industry genuinely uncomfortable, the people buying these watches, it is not who you think, or rather, it is not only who you think. There is an entire community built around the purchase and evaluation of high-quality replica watches, not hiding in the dark web, on Reddit, on dedicated forums, on Telegram groups with thousands of members who openly share quality control photographs, detailed images of a specific watch before purchase, examined for flaws. They discuss which factories produce the most accurate dial printing, debate the merits of different movement clones, and maintain lists of trusted dealers with ratings and reviews. These are not people who think they're buying genuine watches. They know exactly what they're buying. That is the point. Ask them why. And you get a range of answers that are harder to dismiss than the industry would like. Some are collectors who want to test wear a reference before committing to the real thing. A $400 investment to determine whether a watch suits them before spending $12,000. Some are people in countries where a real Rolex costs the equivalent of 3 years of salary, for whom the replica represents the only access point to something they genuinely love. Some are people who find the idea of wearing a $15,000 watch to a barbecue or a beach vacation absurd, and want the aesthetic without the anxiety. And some, a significant portion, are people who have simply decided that a brand charging $10,500 for a watch that costs $800 to manufacture does not have a strong moral claim on their loyalty. This last argument is not legally defensible. It is, however, the argument that keeps the community growing. The Swiss watch industry's position is clear. Counterfeits fund organized crime, undermine manufacturing jobs in Switzerland and beyond, deceive unknowing third parties when replicas enter the secondary market as genuine pieces, and erode the trust on which the entire luxury market depends. These arguments are all true. They are also not winning the argument online. The replica community has grown steadily every year. The quality of superclones has improved every year. The factories in Shenzhen iterate the way technology companies iterate, absorbing feedback from their own customers, updating production based on identification failures, releasing new versions that address known weaknesses. They have R&D cycles, they have version numbers, they have customer reviews. The industry they are replicating has spent 170 years building its reputation. The factories replicating it have spent 15 years narrowing the gap. You leave the building the same way you came in. The man with the trolley is still moving boxes. He doesn't look up. On the flatbed, stacked in plain brown packaging, are approximately 60 units of something that will travel from this loading dock to a distribution point, from there to a mail forwarding service, from there into a standard shipping envelope that will pass through customs in 17 different countries this week, with a declared value of $35 and a description that says watch parts. Most of them will arrive. Most of them always do. Somewhere a buyer is refreshing their tracking number. They've already submitted their QC photos to a forum. The community has approved the purchase. The trusted dealer has a 4.9 rating across 800 transactions. The watch will be on their wrist by Thursday. This industry exists because of a gap. Not just the price gap between a genuine Rolex and a replica, though that gap is real and enormous, but a deeper gap. between what luxury watch brands have decided their products mean and what a large portion of the world has decided it can afford to participate in. As long as that gap exists, the loading dock will keep moving boxes. Drop your take in the comments. This is one of the most debated topics in the watch world, and there are no easy answers. If you want more videos like this, you know what to do. Subscribe. We're just getting started.